to something else. What is that something else?
I'm going back to choice, man.
Well, okay, so
because some people are going to be degenerate no matter what.
But you know that you don't want somebody to end up in a scenario where they have all the choices in the world, but they're in screaming pain.
Sure.
Right?
Sure.
So if choice led to pain in their life, you'd say, oh, it's actually better to reduce choice, right?
I would, but
Doesn't that mean your North Star then is...
No, I believe that if you're taking care of your situation, let's say you're in a bad place and you're creating pain for yourself, you should have the choice to change your atmosphere.
Love that.
I'm a very big believer in atmosphere. Like, let's say that I was...
But what do you get from changing your atmosphere?
You put yourself in a different place. Have you not gone from one place to another and felt completely different?
I have. So I want to be very clear so we don't argue about something stupid.
Yeah.
I agree that choice is incredibly valuable, and the way I feel about choice, exactly the way I feel about money, that you want as much choice as you can get,
right?
But it isn't the thing. So having choice will not make you feel good about yourself. So if you make wise choices,
of course,
then you may end up, no, I think this is really important. And this is where I think people end up optimizing for, let's take money. It's far easier to, people will get it when I say money. Like if you're optimizing your life for money, we both know fool's errand. Even if you get it, you're going to end up being like, oh, I didn't want this. So, or it did not give me the thing I thought it was going to give me. So my favorite story to tell people about money is, oh, the way that I got rich was selling a piece of my company. So you go from normal bank account to commas and zeros everywhere, literally in an instant. You refresh on your bank and boom, it's there. And it was wonderful. Now I had already learned my lesson about money, but the hilarious thing was when it hit and I had all the money, suddenly I was like, oh, wow, it's interesting. I still have all the same insecurities that I had 90 seconds ago. So money is not going to change how you feel about yourself, but how you feel about yourself is everything. And so what the only thing that I think is inarguable, and I'm very open, look, I've been wrong before. I've been confident and wrong before. So it is very possible I am confident and wrong right now, but I don't think so. I think the only thing that is going to be universal is if you optimize to increase human flourishing. So every choice that you get, because choice is it's amoral. You could have a choice. I could kill that person and get away with it. Okay, that's an additional choice. I don't advise it because evolution has given us minds in a certain way. And unless you're a sociopath, I think it's really going to mess with you to kill somebody for no reason whatsoever, or to kill something and get what was there. Oh God. So I would say the only way to think about it is you're optimizing for human flourishing, and choice is one of the things that will help you be able to navigate those paths well. But you can have choice and make all of the wrong ones and end up in a position where, yes, you can now back out of it and thank God. So we're grateful that you have choice, but by just pursuing choice,
there's a
you do
word
not end up at the right
in
place.
all of these pillars on the way to choice, and that's discipline.
Okay.
It takes discipline to go to the gym.
Yep.
It takes discipline to get up and go to work again after you've been punched in the face. It takes discipline to show up. It might even take discipline in a meeting for you to hold your tongue, right? And so choice plus discipline is going to be ideal, but it's ultimately choice. And if you have the discipline to get yourself out of a bad position or to not make bad decisions, then that choice can never hurt you. Would you add something to choice and discipline? Is there a better North Star? Because I'm here to learn too. I don't know everything.
Yeah. So I would say that
I know I'm sitting in front of a smart guy, Tom.
Yeah.
So
I mean, spend a lot of time thinking about that. So I look, we both know that you have to run everything against real life. And so I have no interest in having philosophies that when deployed are useless. So the way that I see it is you have put your finger on something incredibly important. This is why I want to make sure we're not arguing about what my wife and I call arguing about the tea versus the real thing.
Yeah.
So the biggest fight my wife and I ever got into was over a cup of tea. And about 2 hours into a screaming match, I realized there's no way this is about the tea. There's just no way.
Right.
And so finally I was like, what are we really arguing about here? So you have laid out some things on the table, and I want to make sure you hear and that everybody listening hears, I think choice is a good thing. It's very powerful.
Right.
I want to make sure that people understand that there are going to be a few things in their life that will be incredibly important to have. Now, I would say without discipline, you will never have choice.
Exactly.
So discipline, hugely important, already more important than choice, because discipline is the foundational thing.
Of choice, of every pillar to get choice.
It will give you many things, including choice. So you have discipline, which is necessary but not sufficient for choice. So discipline, we have choice. Choice is amazing. But those are both things that we leverage, in my opinion, to get to a neurochemical state. Now, it is very important to understand one thing about me, that I am a physicalist. I believe everything comes down to your brain. I don't think there's anything spiritual. I don't think you have a soul. I think if I drive a 3-foot tamping rod through your head, it will change you forever. True story. Look him up. His name is Phineas Gage. And it's just, that just is. And so even if this is all a simulation, which anybody that follows me knows, it really might be, the simulation works in a certain way. And so there is still cause and effect within the simulation. So I believe that we are entirely tied to our biology, and that you have nothing without biology, which is why I was saying, I think I'm a hyper responder to oxytocin and vasopressin, which is why it's easy for me to have a 21-year marriage. Other people may struggle, and maybe they're just dopamine freaks. And so they have to fuck everything that moves because it's the only thing that gives them that dopamine rush. So it's like, know thyself. I'm not even passing judgment. I don't care. Just
I get it.
I'm aiming towards one thing, human flourishing. That's it. Now, I think that evolution has just made it true that human flourishing is, there are outliers, everything's a bell curve, but there's a big, like when we talk about the center, that center follows a recipe that I will say is fulfillment. And that recipe is very simple. You must, every word I'm going to say is non-negotiable. You must work hard to garner a set of skills that allow you to serve not only yourself, but other people in a way that you find exciting. And if you do that, and you are making progress towards getting better at helping people at something that you're excited about, and you're serving yourself as well as others, you will, even in moments of grief, you will have fulfillment. You won't always have happiness. That's super transient. And nobody is happy in the middle of grief. But you can be fulfilled in the middle of grief. And the reason that that recipe to me is just, it is non-negotiable, is because nature had to make sure that as it cobbled you together from a bunch of competing cells, that you would ultimately stay alive long enough to have kids that have kids. That's it. That's all nature is trying to do. And since nature only has two levers, pleasure and pain, it starts yanking the fuck out of those two levers to make sure that you do all the behaviors that you need to do in order to have kids that have kids. So
don't you feel like that's our basic desire, to have the choice to be able to do the things that you just said?
I
don't intrinsically find it to be different.
The only issue I have is, I think if you optimize as choice is the end product, it will lead to suboptimal outcomes. It doesn't necessarily lead to fulfillment.
And do you think that the proper answer is to optimize yourself, like optimize your body and your mind? And
I think you're optimizing your biology. So so for me, everything can work back from fulfillment. So you have algorithms running in your mind.
Right.
And those algorithms make you value certain things. And one of them is for whatever reason. And I'm guessing there's just probably some relatively self-evident things around being strong or capable or whatever, healthy. Maybe it's that simple. That when you get in shape, and guys, I will say this for you for sure, as you get strong and look aesthetically pleasing, you will feel awesome about yourself. And if I lost everything tomorrow and my wife, let's say, left me, step one, get ridiculously jacked. It just, I know that the biggest breakthrough in business for me was changing my physique.
Bro,
I'm much smaller now than I used to be.
I always say that. I completely agree with you.
100%.
Proceed.
So, but that's...
Your mind's better, everything.
For sure. To me, that's all algorithm running. It just is. There's no way to escape it.
It also, I believe that we put energies off.
What does that mean?
So, you know how like the body's like an electrical system. I'm sure you know this, right? Or do you disagree?
I don't disagree, but now you're treading on where
this is not my
woo-woo.
This is not my subject, but I do believe that when you walk in a room and you're confident and you stand tall and you believe in yourself, that energy does come off of you.
Yes, I don't know that it matters. I totally agree that we send signals, and I totally agree the other person can read those signals, whether they're energetic or just the brain knowing how to read other people.
It is,
irrelevant.
Primer or whatever. But so do you think that choice falls second to optimizing?
I've never thought about where choice specifically ranks. All I know is you're going to make choices, so good to have them, in order to get to the point where you can optimize yourself. Now, for instance, if you were to strip away freedom, then you can't maneuver through your life to figure out the path that actually allows you the neurochemical state that I'm trying to help people get to, which is fulfillment. So it is a necessary but not sufficient piece of the puzzle.
I believe that most all of humans, and I mean like a high percentage, 90 something percentile, are good people. Good people, like naturally. I think things happen to them in life where they get desperate and they do things that would reclassify them as bad, but they were actually just desperate. That said, I believe that most people would love nothing more than to put themselves in a position, just like you said, all of our pillars are about the same till we get to the end. But I believe that most people are good people, so most people would choose to do fulfilling things. And I'll use me for an example. This is all very, very new to me. 2 years ago, nobody knew who I was. I was just putting metal buildings up all over America and trying to buy real estate. I had mud on my hands, driving forklifts. It was construction. But I finally got the business to a place after over a decade, 13 years, where I have a true management team and staff, all this other stuff. I could have done anything. This is by far the most fulfilling work I've ever done. And I don't think I'm particularly special for doing it. I think most people, if given the opportunity to give back and feel like they're helping other people on a large scale, would absolutely take that opportunity, regardless of whether it made their status go up or anything like that. I think they would do it. I really, really do. Most people don't have the discipline to work hard enough to put themselves in a position of choice to actually get that fulfillment done. I don't think we're far off. Outside the biochemistry stuff, about how to get to fulfillment.
Probably not. So my concern is, do I think people are good? No, I don't think people are default anything. I think people are default survival machines, and evolution has pleasure and pain and algorithms that it's honed over time that make us a very cooperative, loving species. And that is awesome. And I love people, and I think that they're amazing. But I think that Solzhenitsyn was right when he said the line between good and evil runs through the heart of every man. I think that is
I agree.
Facts.
I agree with that.
So we are capable of both good and evil. That's my true stance. Now, I think that people are also easily confused, myself included, by the way.
I'd like to add to what you just said. I'm sorry, I don't mean to cut you off, but like,
we're here for you.
You're right. It's this divide between good and evil, right? And a young man that, let's say he goes on the internet and he sees a bunch of guys saying, work out, work your hardest, be honest, build a team of brothers, do everything that you're supposed to do in life. I think more often than not, he finds himself on the side of choice and he chooses to be good instead of evil. I do think by and largely, I don't even think it's close.
So they're not default good. They just
no, they're not default good.
Good choices.
But if they do these things that we're all trying to preach, you included. I've heard you say plenty of the things that I say. I don't think there's a whole lot of new information out there about how to live a good life. Mm-hmm. It's if they take the initiative and have the discipline to build these pillars in their life. If they all got to a position where they had choice, let's say you took 1,000 men that did all of those things that you did, that maybe I did, that maybe some of these other people had done, I think they would choose the side of doing good things more than they would do evil, just naturally. Because don't we run in packs? Don't we want to be a part of the group as humans?
Yes.
Right?
So I'm not sure this will be fruitful, but it'll be fun. So let's go down this road. Okay, so one, I'm going to say something that I think you'll agree with so hard you're going to get a leg cramp.
Okay, cool.
Which is that if you have somebody that just won't make change, their life is trash in every way possible, and you want to see them make change, you kidnap them. You take them to a deserted island and you stock that deserted island with people that they really respect that will make huge demands of them. And they either conform to that group and do the things to earn that group's respect, or they remain an outcast. They will conform to the group and they will suddenly do all the things you would need to do to earn those people's respect. Their life will turn around instantaneously.
Cramp installed.
Yep. So whenever somebody says, oh my God, I've got a 15-year-old and I just cannot reach them, what do I do? I'm like, I'll tell you what'll work. You're not going to do it. So that's just the brotherhood. It's going to work, and it's going to work 100% of the time. Now, the problem becomes that humans are very good at othering other people. And hey, evolution is just trying to keep you alive long enough to have kids that have kids. Now, if we want to get real ugly for a second, and hey, why not? This is what I think is true. I think for a very long time, what ended up happening, and this is why we are going to talk about polygyny at some point, and here is why I'm super tense about I think polygyny is a response to an economic situation where you end up getting men that are hyper successful. You have no middle class, and women really are better off going with the 0.1% of men or whatever, and being like the seventh wife. It really is better. It's a wiser strategy when you're trying to make sure that your kids survive.
I've argued the point. Proceed.
Yep. So I get that. Now the catch becomes that for a long time, what we would do when we had times of surplus men, as they call them. So you've got all these guys that can't get laid. No one's going to like to hear it said like that, but that's the truth.
Right.
And when young men can't get laid, they really become a problem.
Yep.
And so you would put them together into warring tribes. Let's call them Vikings. Yep. And you set them about warring. And the whole point of war is to
war brides.
Kidnap women.
Yeah.
And look, it's ugly, it's nasty. And that's why I say, I don't know, like internally, their tribe would be like, oh my God, they're the most moral, just, incredible people. And then I'd be looking at them going, they have slaves. They just killed that woman's husband and took her back. That's horrendous. But their group would say they're amazing. So this is one where, again, I want to remind myself, everybody else can ignore me, but I'm going to remind myself, the line between good and evil runs through my heart. And if I am not constantly looking up at that North Star, what will accidentally become my North Star is everything good for me. And the problem is that if that doesn't reach a check somewhere, now you're going to have a problem.
Do you think those Vikings were bad people?
Oh my God. Thank you for asking me a question that I have not thought through. I think they did very bad things. I do not want future generations judging me. I only want people in my current moment judging me. Yes, I'm speaking to all the people tearing down the past right now. I don't think that's a wise or fair move. So I do not want to pass judgment from here, but I would not act like they act.
I don't think you had a choice.
Yeah, probably. That's what I'm saying. I don't want to judge them. Because
Yeah,
back then,
you wouldn't have a choice. Yeah.
totally get it. Which
Nature's
is why
metal.
say that again. Because for people that don't know what you mean by that, I think that's a very important point.
Nature is metal, for sure. You follow that Instagram page?
I do.
Yeah, bro, it's badass. My
It's
boy.
gnarly.
Yeah,
So gnarly.
Bro, but it's a reality check. I don't like those videos, but I'll watch that a video on that channel and be like, this is what the world is. And you can get mad or play ball. And another thing that
what's the gnarliest nature is metal post you've seen?
Bro, I saw one of these two dogs. They got caught on Visqueen on the side of like a pond, and there's a crocodile at the bottom, and they're just scrambling trying to get up, and he's just waiting. They didn't make it, bro.
Oh, that's so
they
rough.
slid down, and they're just fighting to not slide down. And whack, got him.
Yep. Yeah.
But just like the Vikings, that crocodile is in a position of survival, and I think the humans are ultimately trying to live their life at the highest levels of survival in all realms. And I think every man is trying to do that. I don't particularly think the Vikings were bad people. I think that their back was against the wall and they had no options. And so they did it by force.
Can I give you a slight variation on that theme?
Proceed.
Nature is metal. The only rule of nature, and we are animals, this is where if people are religious, they are not going to understand my take, but we are animals that crawled out of the primordial ooze and used intelligence as a way to become the most dominant predator the world has ever seen.
Right.
But ultimately, the only rule of nature is the strong will do as they will, and the weak will suffer as they must. And that's it.
Do you not think that's Darwinism?
You could put that word to it, sure. I just think that's it. Like it just,
right.
You're going to survive or you're going to die. Things are trying to eat you and you're trying to eat things. And if you're good enough to kill them, then you get to. And if they're good enough to kill you, then they get to.
Right. I say all the time, like I love my country very much. I'm very patriotic. Like I love America, especially because I was born in the 80s. I truly believe that America's a bully. But if America was not bullying, we would be getting bullied by Russia or China. And I think that if China could take us over today, they would do it. And I think even in 2023, that's still a real thing. Nature is still metal right now. And like back to I know you're going to bring up polygyny later. Non-popular take, but in a lot of ways, that's Darwinism too. Not fair. I'm not saying I like it. I'm not even saying I promote it. But in a lot of ways, it is. You yourself said that they could be the seventh wife, but probably would live a better life. I don't love that. I don't love that statement. I don't think it's wrong though. So what do we do?
What would make it something that you would voluntarily opt out of?
If they could get rid of social media and create scenarios where the temptation was not in everybody's face, I think that would be a really good start. I don't have a direct answer on how to voluntarily opt out because I understand what's in me and I understand what's in most men.
But that's not uncontrollable. So this is,
I think it not being in your face is a big deal.
Really? So,
yeah.
JWaller, you have freakish amount of discipline. You know you could set it aside if you wanted to and be faithful. I'll just speak from my own experience. Mm-hmm. I have a very high sex drive. And I'm sure at times my wife feels that she suffers as a result. But that doesn't mean that I assess the situation and go, and look, I'm rich and I have a high sex drive. So I could go to my wife and say, hey, look, I couldn't now because she's too successful in her own right. But back in the day, hey, this is the way that it's going to be, right?
Yeah.
And she, I think it's very straightforward to say, would have been like, get the fuck out of here. But let's just pretend that she rolled with it. I could go and do that. And I didn't. And I've heard you say 1,000 times, hey, if guys don't want it, I'm not promoting this. If guys don't want to do it, like I totally get it. And you're not weak. You have been very emotionally generous. So all I'm trying to figure out, I don't pass a moral judgment on it.
Yeah, I get it.
I have a look at it from a societal lens where I'm like, look, you're making hay while the sun shines. You find yourself in a situation where you can do this. But when you're pushed on this, you always give what I think is the worst argument ever from JWaller. I think knowing your own philosophy, I could give a better answer for why you do it.
All right, then what is my philosophy and then what do you think is better?
Okay, so your philosophy is the philosophy of choice. I have given myself all these options. I have these options. I really can give these women a better life. It is a very small price to pay for them to say, hey, you're going to be number 2 or number 3. And you're probably not going to go a lot deeper than that, I don't think. And so look, I'm going to make your life amazing and you're going to be way better off with me. And by the way, these are your words. It's not my life view.
Proceed,
but
bro. You
that,
can't hurt my feelings.
No, I'm not worried about hurting your feelings. I'm talking to the audience. I want to make sure they understand I'm representing your view. That they can certainly be with another guy, but the odds of him cheating on them and just lying about it are very, very high.
Very high. Yep.
Whereas you are going to be upfront. You're going to tell them this is the way that it is. I really hope that you want to be a part of this because I would really love to share this with you. If you don't want to be a part of this, I totally understand. Yes?
Yes, but you are leaving one thing out, and I've actually left this out too.
Yep.
Most of these women are bi.
Okay.
And I am screening for that.
Yes.
So there is a level of Bonnie and Clyde accompanying, it's a companionship, like helping find other women, to be completely clear.
Okay, so can I say it in another way? You guys are sharing a sexual experience together. It's a shared thing.
Yep.
Love it the most. That I have no beef with.
Right.
But where I was going is that the argument that you always give publicly, which what you just said is maybe a different orientation that's better, but for me anyway, is that I can't control these urges. And so people always feel like this cognitive dissonance of here's this hyper-disciplined guy who's done all this shit and sheet metal and
And I should have, you know what, when I was asked about discipline on that other podcast, I was so, one thing I hate more than anything in the world is a judgmental Christian. I grew up in the South. I could not hear her because all I saw or all I could hear was her wagging her little Christian finger at me, knowing damn good and well she didn't get married until she was in her 30s, which means that more than likely she had sex before marriage as well. Like, we're both sinners. And I should have...
Why do you care? Why do you care if a Christian judges you? Usually the
I
things
grew
that
up in
bother
it.
us.
I grew up in it. I
So
grew
do you
up
still
in the
feel
deep
lingering judgment
from Christians.
from yourself?
No, no, I feel completely free. That's why I'll come on a podcast and talk about it. Why I don't like hypocrites. The one thing in this world I hate the most is hypocrisy.
Okay.
And it's been my experience with Christians, particularly growing up in South Louisiana, that they'll tell you one thing and do another. And then if they want something done, they will pick the Bible verse that fits the situation and hit you upside the head with it. I despise it. I truly do. And I think a lot of Christians despise it. The Christians that just want to go to church and want to have their relationship with God and their faith, and they have other people judging them from this God complex that they have because they think they've read the scripture more than the next person, or they think they are better in some way than the next person. So they cast stones down and they use the Bible as a sword to do it. I can't stand it. Truly. The best Christians I know are Christian. I know they're Christian and they don't talk about it much. It just comes off of them. They have that Holy Spirit, that love in their heart, whatever that is that they have. And I really respect Christians that are that way. It's the ones that are judgmental and that want to make a scene about them being holier than thou, and they're on some kind of religious pedestal that you're not. Those people can get fucked. That said, I should have responded. I have a ton of sexual discipline. You could put any of my friend's girl butt naked in my bed for a week, and I can tell you I would not touch her. I also turn down quite a bit of married women on social media. It disgusts the shit out of me. Also, a lot of times Christians with their Jesus background on their Facebook timeline and then sliding in my DMs. I'm very aware of it. I have a hyper interesting view of hypergamy on my social media, just because.
Tell people that don't know what's hypergamy.
Hypergamy is when a woman is looking out into the world. This is my definition. I don't have Webster's memorized. When a woman is looking out into the world and looking for other partners that she could possibly be with, and putting out signals to see if she can, what they call monkey branch, over to that next partner. So they have a foot in the boat and a foot out in hopes that they can jump on the other boat. And typically hypergamy is tied to the idea of over or up. So they're dating laterally. It's either over or up, and most oftentimes it's up. And again, I think that social media wrecks families for this reason, because back in the 80s, let's say, you might see a beautiful woman, or you might see a really handsome man as a woman. You saw him one time in a parking lot. He might live in that town with you, and you might not see him for another 20 years. That's not in your face. When I bought that Lamborghini the other day, it went on my Facebook. Everybody's wife that is friends with me on Facebook saw that I bought a Lamborghini. Like, I'm not super excited about that. It's not even the reason I posted it. But hypergamy is generally happening when all these other options are out there, and that woman says, okay, well, that is a better mate choice for me from a primal perspective. And so they make that attempt to make that move. And you see it quite a bit, especially with social media.
It's interesting. So I look at from a social media perspective, and again, tying this back into the whole thing that got me thinking about this is, so one, I do view it very differently. If you're talking about my wife, girlfriend, whatever status, we like to share this kind of sexual experience, no beef. Right. To be honest, I don't have a beef with any of it. People should live whatever life they want. What I worry about is that just like I don't think the damage is being created by social media per se. I think that what ends up happening is people have no demands are being made of them. We don't have a sense of what is the ideal. We have flipped the idea of, oh, if you have an ideal, your ideal would be that, I think, that women should have a low body count, to use the common phrase now.
They should have a low body count.
Okay. So
and I disagree with you on social media.
You think that social media creates
I think social media wrecks it. I'll tell you why. I'm not objectifying women, but let's say everybody knows a scale of 1 to 10, right? Mm-hmm. A man, attractiveness. A man will sleep with a substantially less attractive woman just to do it. And now that woman thinks that she deserves that level of man. So the guy that's really in that girl's league, she's saying, oh, I slept with that guy. And after the relationship happens, she settles, and then she's looking around still for other men. I think that if anybody gets married, you get off social media or have one together. Truly.
Interesting.
I do.
That strikes me as an
like insecure, right?
Not insecure, yeah, untrusting. It feels like you feel that people are trapped by their nature and that they cannot be trusted with their impulses.
Not so much. I don't think you should put your partner in that position. Like
What
I
position?
trust the locks on my F-150.
Mm-hmm.
I don't put it in a bad neighborhood. So why put her in that position of temptation?
Interesting. Okay, so I see that. My experience has led me to see that very differently. But maybe I am from a charmed time. I will not deny that there are, when I hear, so I have employees that are much, much younger than me.
Yeah.
And I see them having to deal with Hinge and, things like that. And I'm like, wow, this really is very different. And certainly the apps create pathology around what I think is the broader problem. So I think that what we have is the confluence of everything that allows people to want it all and want it now, and nobody checks them. And so the thing I think we have is, again, there's no lions. And so since nobody's being eaten alive and there's no just like, hey, you can't act like that, moron, you're going to get eaten. So get your ass inside. There's no being outside after dark. Why? Because you'll be eaten, right? So once all that goes away, it's like, well, why can't I do this? Why can't I do this? And so any one micro thing does not seem like a problem. But then all of a sudden we have strayed so far from the evolutionary truth of the algorithms running in our mind, which will lead to fulfillment, that now all of a sudden I don't have a beef with how anybody lives their life, but I see people living their lives in a way that does not lead to fulfillment. So I'm just like, hey, from my vantage point, you have too many choices and you're making a lot of dumb ones because you're not acknowledging that running in your brain are evolutionarily planted algorithms that demand you behave in a certain way. And the second you deviate from that, it won't feel good in and of itself. It does not matter what the world tells you. The world can celebrate you all day long for being morbidly obese and you go girl and whatever. I promise, running in your mind is an algorithm. It's like, we have a problem. Houston, we have a problem because your body's not optimized to carry fat like that. It's not. So now you're just in a horrendous place. Fat is kicking off hormones like crazy. Your joints are deteriorating, the whole nine. Like, it is just a cascade of problems. So I don't care if society's like, this is amazing. The algorithms in your brain will tell you,
I agree.
Sucks.
I agree with everything you just said. And I would also argue that long before they even get a chance at fulfillment, they're already suffering. What percentage of men are going without sex? Large. They're suffering anyway. They're making these bad decisions because they have too much choice, right? They got the video games and the porn and the sex dolls and all these different things they can do. I would argue that they're already suffering.
Agreed?
Yeah. Now, the only thing saving us from these sexless young men going out and shooting up a whole bunch of stuff is that they have these whole incel communities where they kind of have like their own little brotherhood and this weird little thing on the side. And the fact that HD porn is like, think about porn like this. Like, I'm not an advocate for porn, but the one thing porn did do is show the average man what a really beautiful woman looks like naked that they would have never seen otherwise. And now they're stuck to that and they're in this whole incel world and they're sitting in video game chairs and I think they're already paying for it. And they just don't know it. And I think the thing that's stopping them from being very violent is that they have some kind of camaraderie, because now the number of men that don't get attention from women, that don't have a social life, that are overweight, that don't really go outside is becoming so large that they're finding friendship in it somehow. And I do think that's sad. And I think it's multiplying.
Okay. I don't know that we've wrapped this topic up sufficiently, but I do want to know.
We were actually talking about discipline.
Wow, is this where this all branched
off? It branched off from discipline, and I have plenty of sexual discipline.
Fascinating. Yes. Wow.
I have plenty.
It's been a long journey. Okay, so if you have plenty of sexual discipline, as you rethink your answer, where do you land on? Is it just the way that I re-encapsulated it? This is a fun thing. Look, I just in that moment felt really judged by this.
No, I didn't feel judged at all. I just directly don't like hypocritical Christians. Mm-hmm. I'm not confused about my answer. I have plenty of self-discipline.
Okay. If I remember right, her question, which is, I'll ask the same question sincerely, but from a very different angle. I worry that we have gotten to the point where polygyny is becoming more common because we've hollowed out the middle class effectively. We have allowed and or encouraged men to be weak.
Yep.
And because we don't give them men or women, an ideal to strive towards that creates harmony between the sexes, we get this sort of very distorted, bizarre world that we're living in now, which has a lot of negative knock-on effects. One of them is that men at the top are going to get all the women.
That's right.
Yeah. So is it really, it seems to me more that you do it because you can, not because you can't stop yourself.
I do it because I enjoy it. A lot of people talk about like, oh, well, you must need the validation. No, I don't.
You keep saying, you have said in interviews, I'd pay $10 million to not have these urges.
Yeah. No, I think I'd make more money. Okay. I think I'd make more money maybe.
But is the money at this point
I'm really, when I say that, I'm really trying to make a point. I do it because I enjoy it.
What's the point?
The point is there was a time in my life where I really struggled with it. And
feeling guilty
I
about
thought
it?
I was broken. Yeah. I no longer feel that way. I was trying to find ways to stop myself from feeling that way. You know what I felt like? I felt like I was going to have to come out of the closet. I swear to God, like I make this joke all the time. It's much easier for gay men than straight men that want to have a lot of sex because gay men is just accepted. I wanted to come out of the closet to everybody, to the world, and be like, hey guys, listen, I really like women and I'm going to sleep with a bunch of them. And I know you're going to hate me for it. And that's one of my biggest fears because I felt like I was going to get kicked out of the group, especially in South Louisiana. I had this girlfriend in college. She was getting ready for Miss America. She won Miss Louisiana. I was having these feelings and I was trying to fight them. And I remember going to church and I would pray and pray, God, please don't let me feel this way. Please, please, please. I'm making a mistake. But man, that volleyball team was looking at me hard, man. And that's what I wanted to do. It's really what I wanted to do. And I didn't feel insecure. I didn't need to validate anything. I mean, it's like literally what I wanted to do. It's like when I drink, I don't drink because I'm sad. I drink because I want to have a good time with my friends, you know, and women have really been the same way. Women have been very good to me in my life. I've had great relationships with them. I've liked them as people. You know, I don't particularly even like to sleep with a woman that I can't get along with or connect on some emotional, intellectual level. I'd say somewhere around 28 that happened. I enjoy it. I like it. They're beautiful. They add to life. You know, they are really literally the cherry on top of life. They're just wonderful people. I love women and I'm not sorry about that in any way. And I don't think I'm alone in feeling this way, but I think I'm one of very few men in the world that actually say it out loud and be judged for it and be patronized for it. And I don't care, you know, because I know that there's a bunch of men out there that have a bunch of love in their heart, that want to love somebody, that really just have an affinity for women. And I can only love one woman at one time. Like, I love the mother of my children more than anything on this fucking planet. I die for her. I really do.
As long as
I'd also appreciate if she bring home a blonde. And she's down. So for me, I don't care what other people say about that because I have choice in my life. And that's why I always go back to choice, because I trust myself to do the right things with my choice. I'm completely honest. I'm loving. I'm caring. I'll rub her back when she's pregnant, you know, like take care of her in every way, take care of my kids in every way. I would never stab a friend in the back when it comes to a woman. I have plenty of discipline on the subject. And so I'm at complete peace about it.
You can reboot your life, your health, even your career, anything you want. All you need is discipline. I can teach you the tactics that I learned while growing a billion-dollar business that will allow you to see your goals through. Whether you want better health, stronger relationships, a more successful career, any of that is possible with the mindset and business programs in Impact Theory University. Join the thousands of students who have already accomplished amazing things. Tap now for a free trial and get started today. What would you do if she said, hey, look, I'm all for it when we're together and we can share this experience, but I would very much not want you to do it without me. Would you adhere to that?
No. But I also think as time goes and I get older, it's probably just going to chill out. It's just going to fizzle, you know?
And do you see yourself being with her forever?
Yeah, I'll take care of her the rest of her life. She has my kids.
But do you see yourself being with her?
Yeah. We're tight. We're best friends. We have conversations about this, you know?
And do you like the idea of being, you're not going to use the word married, I understand that, but permanently pair bonded? I don't know what the normal nomenclature.
As long as you're in love, man, it's a beautiful thing. But love's real, bro.
Yes.
Like, love's real. She has the power to hurt me. If she left me, it would hurt. I would feel it. I would be in deep pain. It wouldn't change my stance. I'd hold strong. but it would be very painful. I always say I'd much rather get my ass whipped than have my heart broke, because it affects the business, it affects everything, you know. So, but no, I have no intentions of ever doing anything but taking care of that woman, and and honestly, it's one of the driving factors in my life as far as work. I quite enjoy it. There's nothing better than coming home and saying, hey, I got this handled, this handled, this handled. It makes you the hero. And I believe no man wants a woman he can't save from a castle on a dragon. That girl's from a podunk town in Louisiana. Her dad still lives in a trailer, you know, and I take her all over the world. She lives in a humongous fucking house with beautiful kids, gets to raise them. And I go out and try to slay the dragons every day, buying property, building buildings all over the place, doing podcasts, doing stuff online, networking, everything. It's one of the most fulfilling things I do, probably the most. Second to that is helping young men. If they don't want to take the same path as me, I'm completely okay with that. They're not less of a man. If they want to be monogamous for the rest of their life, I think as long as you have choice and you're doing what you truly, truly in your heart want to do, then I think you've succeeded, you included. So that's genuinely how I look at it. But as far as discipline goes, I've got plenty of it. I just am not playing the game. It's like if you were to tell me, if we put a pizza down on this table and you said, Justin, you're not disciplined, why are you eating all this pizza? I'd be like, bro, I'm still going to have a 6-pack at the end of this pizza, bro. You're on a diet, not me. And that's how I feel about it. And what's funny is I say all this on the internet, and it doesn't stop my Instagram inbox from filling up with women. I can't even answer the messages. So on some level, I believe that women don't even care as much as people think.
Well, let me ask. So what do you think those women are after? I would assume, knowing what I know about women, it's not just the sex. So are they hoping to become a permanent fixture in your life? Are they hoping that they can turn your head away from your girlfriend? What do you think they're after?
I think all of the above. I think it depends on the woman. Some girlfriends are just trying to have my kids, you know, which is something really interesting I noticed about your situation, is that your wife didn't want to have kids, which was really surprising to me, in that somehow that's okay with you. It surprises me because I didn't say this to you earlier, but I super look up to you. You're a great man. Like, Quest, that's a big fucking deal, dude. Like, you're somebody. Generous. Yeah. No, it's just true. It's actually, I'm not even being nice. It's just matter of fact true. And when I think about that, I'm like, bro, Tom, you like, what if he had sons? What would that legacy be? And when I see a guy like you not chase it, it makes me want to chase it even more. You know what I'm saying?
It's good. And thank you for your service, by the way.
Yeah.
And I really mean that. I know it sounds super cheeky,
yeah.
But I am really worried about population collapse and the fact that we've chosen not to have kids.
Bro, you know who's not having kids? The smart people.
Yeah.
The dumb people are having kids, bro.
There's something in that statement, by the way.
Yeah.
There's something to the fact that the more you educate women, the fewer kids are born.
Because they're growing phantom penises, bro.
Growing phantom penises.
Yes, they are. They're very masculine, and it takes a super, super hyper masculine man to make them feel feminine.
Okay, that was a hard turn. So,
yeah. Oh, I get that all the time.
Let me reorient. So, yeah, what is the takeaway from that? That's why. So I
feel like women have this
as you educate them.
No,
they have
it's not
less
the
kids.
Education so much. It starts with the education, but then it turns into girl power and feminism and boss bitch stuff.
Mm-hmm.
When I think naturally, the natural state of a woman is to be a little bit more submissive, is to be in not the leadership role, but the helping the cause role. And I think most women ideally don't want to make all the decisions, don't want to pick where dinner is, don't want to make the hard business choices. They don't want to face the pressure and stress of work. There are outliers. Maybe your wife is one of them. But I think by and largely, the average woman does not want that. They don't want that life. They're being forced into that life because men aren't showing up in the same way as they used to. And they have all this pressure from society to be a bad bitch. And so they end up growing what I like to call this phantom penis, you know, where they're kind of more of a man than the guys that are trying to date them. And so we're in this weird paradox where men have to be super, super, super on top of their stuff to even get a woman to want to submit. Because why would a woman want to take a risk on a man that she doesn't even know if he can handle it? Isn't that dangerous to her on a primal level?
Yeah.
And when she makes more money than him, and she has a higher prestigious position than him, and she's supposed to come home and they're supposed to be equal partners all of a sudden, I don't believe it. And I know it's not popular, but I just think on a very basic primal level, it's not true. It's not true. And it doesn't, and look, I have very high level women that work for me making multiple six figures, big bonus checks. I mean, one percenter. One of my women, the lady that runs my construction company, she is a one percenter, and she deserves every bit of it. And we couldn't make it without her. She's absolutely phenomenal. But she's also substantially older than me, grew up in a different generation. I don't think a woman can be a breadwinner today and there be that same sexual chemistry between her and her husband.
It's an interesting
because of
thesis.
hypergamy.
It's a very interesting thesis. I actually think there's probably more to it than hypergamy.
I think there's much more.
So
argue with me.
No, unfortunately on this one, all I can do is agree with you. So I think that men want to feel powerful, and just like women want to feel beautiful.
Yes.
If you make a woman feel safe, seen, and desired, then
and heard.
Yep, for sure. Then you're gonna do well. If you make a man feel appreciated and powerful, you're done.
Yeah,
like,
you're done.
That's
There's
it.
much
That's
simpler.
all I need.
Yeah.
And it's very interesting. So this is, now we're getting into the territory of what I think the real problem is.
Cool.
So there's a great quote, I think it was Oscar Wilde, who said, everything is about sex except sex. That's about power. And the first time, and of course it's overly simplistic. I don't want people to freak out, but the reason that the quote gets people's attention is like, there's a little something to it that really does carry something. And so we'll take my wife, and I wish she was here so people could see, trust me, I'm not putting words in my wife's mouth. This is something that we've talked about a lot. So my wife wanted to be a bad bitch. She woke up one day and was like, you know what? I want to go on my entrepreneur arc. I really like this. I'm good at it, which is true. She is unbelievable. Best business partner I've had. She's amazing. And at the same time, I was like, hey, just to be clear, I'm not interested in fighting for the role of leader in the family. But at the same time, I'm never going to ask you to slow down so I can lead. But when I'm better than you at something, I'm not going to pretend that you're better than me. And when you're better than me at something, we're not going to pretend that I'm not better. But in no uncertain, like when we founded Impact Theory, I said, hey, I am perfectly happy to split the money that we have earned. You earned your half for sure. Happy to give you your half. You can go run a business, whatever business you want, and I'll take my half and I'll go run a business. Or we can run it together. If we're going to run it together though, then, and it's important to note at this point that the attorneys were like, hey, if you guys decide to run it together, one of you needs to have 51%, one of you needs to have 49%. Otherwise it's the perfect divorce nightmare. And Lisa was like, obviously you take 51%, like makes all the sense in the world. You work harder than me, totally get it. I was like, absolutely not, over my dead body. I want the ultimate divorce nightmare because we're never getting divorced. And it's up to me to be able to navigate this well enough that we don't get divorced. So I'm like, I'm all in. I want you to understand you're more important to me than the business, and I want to put my money where my mouth is. So the company is 50-50. And so if we ever get into a divorce, fucking everything blows up. I love it. I love it.
I hate it.
I understand. So we've got the company 50-50. So I said, okay, if we're going to do that, then just know that, of course, you're amazing. I know what you're capable of. And we will always try to convince each other. If I think one thing is right, I'll try to convince you. If you think something's right, you try to convince me. And I
love all that.
And yeah, and we'll honor that 100. Obviously, if you have a woman running your company, you know that any individual, anything can be
love to be wrong.
The best.
Yeah.
Right? It's wonderful. When
I don't need to be right. I need to win. And I don't care who says it.
I say the same thing all the time.
Yep.
So, but I want to be clear, dear wife of mine, that if we can't convince each other, we will go with my idea every time. And if you're cool with that, then we can do it together. And if you're not cool with that, I totally understand, but you can't ever find ourselves in a stalemate. So one of us has to be the final arbiter.
It has to be that way.
Yeah, the way it normally breaks down is if I know it's an area of her expertise, then I'm just going to be like, okay, it makes more sense to go with your thing. But a few times it really has come down to, I understand your position perfectly and think you're wrong. You understand my position perfectly and think I'm wrong. and we're just gonna, then I'm the tiebreaker.
Right.
So look, you can work this stuff out. And I really do believe if in those moments I didn't feel like I was the right person to lead, because by the way, I came to that conclusion because we both think I'm the right person to make that decision. My wife was not like, oh my God, like this is so unfair. She was like, yeah, you're the right person to make that decision. Now, the problem becomes, what if you're in a marriage and you get to that point and she's like, I don't think you're the right person to make that decision. I think all emotional hell breaks loose. I don't know how he gets an erection, and I don't know how she would want to ever find herself under him. And look, maybe that's me being old. I don't know.
That goes back to my respect equals love thing. Your wife respects you because of the businessman that you were. And for that reason, she gave you the nod to make these critical decisions. And that's all I really meant by respect equals love. It's the respect. And as long as she respects you and looks up to you in the way that she wants you making those decisions, she will want to sleep with you. And that's what I meant by what I said earlier. So everything that you just said sounds good to me. Right, in fact, it's even better that you gave her more stock. Like, the money is aside, like, give her the 51%, whatever. But the fact that she came to you as the decision maker, I think, is ideal.
Yeah. So
and you earned it.
These are the easy parts. Now we want to get into the hard part, which is, okay, Mr. Bilyeu, if you're correct, and this is really the way to move forward, what do you do when you unshackle women, educate the shit out of them? They're better at education, so they're pulling ahead. They are usually more conscientious, more organized. So they're
easier to
be
manage
disciplined.
A lot of times, yeah.
Yep, less problematic.
More organized.
And so they fire ahead of men.
Yep.
Now what? JWaller. What do we do? Because that is the situation we find ourselves in. Women are finally, thank God, unshackled. And all of society now gets to benefit from their insights, their